Ooh, who's barking? Okay, this is Izu, and we're filming this because her parents are moving somewhere where groomers are not prevalent, so they may groom her themselves. Izu gets, in the summertime, probably all the time for where she's moving, a 7F on her body. And we start at the back of the occiput, just like we did on Brigitte. When I'm using a blade, and especially on Izu and any other dog that has old dog warts, well, really on any dog, I don't use a whole lot of pressure with my Izu. Izu doesn't like to stay where she always wants to get out to the window. Anyway, I don't use a lot of pressure. I think the more pressure you use, the more likely you are to catch a wart, the more likely you are to catch skin or a skin fold. So just a really light amount of pressure. Sometimes it means you'll have to go over them again because it doesn't catch absolutely everything. But alright, Izu, this is silly. You probably would not have this problem with her owner because that's what she's trying to do. They're out front doing stuff and she's trying to get to them. So when you're using a blade on a dog, any blade, there are two areas that you need to be really careful of. One is the underarm flap right here. You can see this loose skin. It's very easy when you have a clipper with bigger spaces between it to catch that skin and cut it, so you really need to be careful. I'll show a little bit later what I do to tidy up that area with less risk to the dog. Now on Izu, because I give her sort of what's called a donut mustache in the front, I actually take down the sides of her face with the short blade that I'm using, whether it be a 5, which we use in the winter, or a 7, which we use in the summer. 7F, 5F. So it's a little bit different than her pal, Brigitte, that I did yesterday. This is the other area that you need to be really careful of here in the groin. This loose skin, again, is very easy to pick up between your blades and cut the hair there. So for now, I'm just leaving it. Here on the inside of her legs, brush up the hair a little bit before you clip it so you get a smoother cut. Yuzu is all about being able to turn around and look out my window even though I've got the window completely blocked off. She's just hoping for the best, don't you, Yuzu? Just hoping for the best. Switching out my blades there. That one's just getting a tidbit hot. It's always good to have at least 2 blades. I don't recommend using cool lube or any of the things that you can use to spray your blades. The sharpeners say that it can really gum up your blade. And so a great alternative is to put a warm blade on a ceramic tile to cool it while you're using the other one. Sorry, I have a little frog in my throat. Easier, we're gonna stand up. Nope. So pretty much have her completely clipped. Now what I do for those areas where the skin flaps is I use the 5 attachment. These are Wahl clipper combs. They have them both for the 5-in-1 blade bravura that I'm using. They also have them for the Andis clipper that I was just using. I prefer to use my bravura because it's cordless and it gets into smaller spots. But you can get away with just using the Andis and having these attachments on that. So for the underarms, I use this to get out that hair. Even though the tines on the clipper comb are big, the ones on the bravura are very close together and far less likely to pull up or cut any skin. So if you were using the Andis clipper with the removable blades like this, you need to use like a 30 blade underneath it. Can't use the 7 or the 10 that comes with it. You need to use the 30. And then same here with this. I just skim. When I do my, I guess people refer to it as a sanitary cut in here in the groin area. I don't cut the dogs very, very close. Some people use a 10 or a 15 blade. I have found more than not that irritates the dog enough to make them lick and get their skin, although it may not have been the blade or the heat from the blade. A lot of people like to blame the groomer for clipper burn for that. It's more because the dog licks. So I just don't cut the dogs that close. My personal preference, you can do what you want. If you want them super close, I would recommend using either this bravura on a 10 setting or the 10 blade that comes with the Andis clipper. So what I just did right there is called back brushing because I can see that I have missed some hair here, mostly because I'm fighting Izu to stay in this direction. Yes I am. So if you brush up against the grain, the way the hair grows, you'll get a smoother cut. Next, we're moving on to Izu's pads. This is an area where when people home groom, they often miss, and dogs will get a big mat here in between the pads, and that has got to be painful to walk on. People just don't think about it, of course. Who would think about your dog getting mats in its path? But that is I would say my number one pet peeve about people who groom their dogs at home. And if I go to do them for some other reason, I almost always find ginormous mats in the dog's pads. So I just take my 40 blade, clean out in between them. If your dog is groomed very often, it's unlikely that they will get these if you just keep them neat. You don't have to necessarily dig into the pad. And I'm telling you that when pad mats are deep, they get moist, they irritate the skin in between the pads, and the groomer has to dig that out with a clipper, and it can sometimes cut the skin in there, and it will definitely irritate the dog. So it's really, really important to keep that hair in there clean. So moving on to Izu. Her face, which she doesn't like, as you can see. Now, I'm just holding onto her chin hair for 2 reasons. 1, to try to keep her head steady, and 2, to know she's gonna move. I'm gonna feel it with this hand before I'm gonna jab my clippers in her eye or something like that. So you can stop when she's bobbing her head, stop. So I'm gonna steady her with my hand up here. And on Izu, I do shave down her entire nose. She's got a short nose, so it's pretty much, if you do the corners of her eyes, it's half of her nose. So we just do the whole thing. And use my one clipper comb attachment to go over her head, and I go against the grain, starting back here at the occiput. Unlike on Brigitte, I go very, very close on her because she gets a completely different haircut. And then on Izu's mustache and beard, I use the dark blue attachment. Go against the grain here to blend it in a little bit. Then I comb all her hair down. Just cut straight across her eyes. Some people might refer to it as a visor, but she doesn't really get a visor because there's not a lot of hair there. You can see she is reluctant to let me do her face. I mean, she's not bad, but she's what I call a passive resistor. She isn't flat out naughty about it, but she does everything she possibly can to keep me from doing it without being naughty, right? She has learned all the tricks in her many years. And while I would prefer to just hold her chin hair, she will not hold still enough for me to do that. So I have to hold her entire muzzle to keep her from bobbing her head around. Because if you don't, and she's bobbing your head and you're here with sharp instruments, you're going to injure the dog at some point. So you've got to hold them steady while you're doing this. You can't be chasing them all around with your clippers or your scissors. So Izu gets short ears too, and for that, I should have done it when I had it on before. I use my one clipper comb again, both on the inside and the outside of the ear. Don't go in like this because you're going to cut the edge of the ear. Always go away from the edges of your skin as much as you possibly can. Then I fold her ear in half. I hold it nice and tight in my hand. Take off the edges of the hair. They will be equal, and then I just trim off the bottom. Be careful not to get the actual ear leather. And just like you just saw, she wanted to shake. I could feel with my left hand that she wanted to shake. Just let the dog shake and then resume when they're done, because if you don't, you're going to be fighting. You're going to be fighting that the whole time. Izu gets a short tail. Now, to keep her, I'm going to have to keep her this way, so I'm going to have to hook her up here. So she gets a short tail. Just cut the end of it off. If you cut the same amount off of it every time you groom them as what you're cutting off their body, you'll pretty much maintain that length. Just stand up. That's all. Just stand up. And just go along the shape of the tail. Make sure you do both sides. I would turn around and do it from the other side. Then hold the tail up over their back. That's how the dog holds it. And just clean up some of that. Okay. Then we're going to just trim up her feet and we'll be just about done. So you brush all your hair up so that you can see, I think you can see a little bit the hair sticking up. Oh boy, if I move the scissors, that thing's gonna move. Oh, let's grab another pair of scissors. So when you brush up the hair, especially when the haircut's this close, you just cut all that extra hair off that comes up. Same with Brigitte on this part right here. You can see what the clipper missed. And just brush it up and trim it off. So. Oh, you're still hooked up there. No wonder you're not coming with me. See all the hair sticking up? Oh, that's a good shot of it. Just take your scissors and skim right over the top. Some groomers don't like nails to show. I say if the dog's got a short enough haircut, I think it's silly to leave hair on the feet longer to cover the nails when the rest of the dog is super short. But if it's an owner request that the nails not show, then you do what you gotta do. I just think it's kind of silly. I think it looks unbalanced too. Okay, turn around, one more foot. Okay, so for all intent and purposes, that's the end of Izu's groom. For any professional groomers that might be watching this, what I usually do after this is vacuum up my hair, blow the dog off, see if anything sticks out when I'm blow drying with the HV dryer, and then I just go over the dog with my blade again really quick, like no more than like maybe 3 minutes, and call it a groom.